So if you're like me and you've been playing One Piece since the deck limited battles format, you would be a huge fan of the purple color. But you would also be not a huge fan of the OP01 purple card pool. Luckily for us, the release of the One Piece Film Edition starter deck changes everything. Yes, that's right, y'all. I finally got my hands on a Film Edition starter deck for the One Piece card game. I am super excited to open it, talk about the cards inside, and just give you a general idea of what makes this deck so special. I will also, at the end of this video, do a little comparison between this one and the other starter decks out of the box, so that way if you're a newer player just starting out, you can better differentiate which starter deck is best for you. I will just let y'all know up top, I like a lot of the cards in this starter deck, and if you're able to get your hands on 2 of these from your local game store at a fair price, I recommend you do so immediately. If maybe your local game store is sold out or they don't have it at a cheap enough price for you, check out websites like TCG Player or eBay for some of the clutch cards that I'm going to talk about in this video to just complete your individual needs for whatever purple deck you're trying to build. If you guys are excited for this video and want to see more like it in the future, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and let me know down below in the comments what is your current favorite leader to play in the One Piece card game. Personally, mine is Kazuki Oden. I love being able to reactivate Dawn. It feels really broken. With that being said, let's go ahead, crack this boy open, and see what's inside. So yeah, like I said, I'm a huge fan of the purple color, and the cards in this set definitely improve your, I don't want to say power as a purple player. I mean, 10-drop Kaido alone is a pretty strong card, but it definitely improves your overall advantage and versatility in the early and mid game. And hopefully, if I can get this out, I can talk about how. So this is my first time opening a proper starter deck for One Piece. Normally, I'm used to opening the tiny pre-release ones that don't have more than just the cards inside, so we get a little rule sheet for the game. If you guys want a refresher on how to play, I have a how to play video on my channel that will hopefully go over everything you need to know. We got this little cardboard casing as well as the actual deck itself. Get our 10 Dawn cards out of the way and get started by talking about the leader of the One Piece film starter deck, Shanks. So Shanks is a purple leader with 5 life, 5,000 base power, activate main once per turn, Dawn -3, so taking 3 Dawn from the field, putting them to the bottom of the deck. All of your film type characters gain plus 2,000 power during the turn. So I'm not a huge One Piece knowledgeable stan, but I do know that Shanks is quote unquote Luffy's dad. So that's crazy. And the fact that he pumps things up is pretty cool, but overall, losing 3 Dawn just to like give 1 or 2 characters plus 2,000 when you can like Dawn -1 and rip cards out of your opponent's hand to draw cards kind of seems a little lackluster, but hey, you never know. Moving on, we have the main SR that I think everyone has been nonstop after since this deck has been released, the Uta. We got a 4-drop, 5,000, 1 counter blocker for purple that on block, Dawn -1 lets you rest up to 1 of your opponent's characters that has 5 cost or less. Amazing, amazing control tool added to purple's mid game. An equivalent card that we already have in OP01 is the 4-drop Black Maria blocker. She has the exact same stats, but instead on block Dawn -1, she becomes 6,000 power instead of 5. Again, very useful card, but this one allowing you to kind of attack back your opponent's cards if they attack you with like their leader is really nice for just controlling and winning board and then spiraling more advantage and pressure from there. Super strong card and beautiful to boot. You get 2 copies of Uta in this starter deck. One of the other SRs we get is the 8-drop Douglas Bullet. This is kind of the win condition, I guess you can say, of this deck. 8-drop, 10,000 power, activate main once per turn, Dawn -4, rest 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less, and then this guy gains double attack during this turn. That means he can deal 2 damage instead of 1 when he attacks your opponent's leader and lands a successful hit. 2 copies of him. Up next, we've got 4 copies of the character Ein, 4-drop 5,000 on play. Add 1 Dawn card from your deck and rest it. Straight up, automatic ramp tool. I love to see it in purple. Up next, we got 2-drop 3,000 power Anne. She's just a blocker. We love basic blockers. No counter on this one, though, so definitely keep that in mind. We have things like Black Maria and Higurashi that already have counter power, but they don't have the film character tagline, which could be important for some of these cards. We have the Karina, 2-drop 3,000, counter 1,000. Activate main once per turn. You may rest this character and trash 1 film type card. If your opponent has more Dawn cards on their field than you, add 2 Dawn from your Dawn deck and rest them. So this is a really nice card, either if you're going first and your opponent will naturally have more Dawn than you, or if you use a lot of Dawn minus effects like Shanks or even Douglas Bullet, lets you regain those things back in the late game. Pretty cool card. We get 2 copies of her. Oh boy, Guild Tessero. This is the other card that I really like from this set. It's the 5-drop 6,000. When attacking, Dawn -2, draw 2 cards. Not only is draw 2 cards one of the most beautiful 3-word sentences in the world, in One Piece specifically, this kind of effect can be abused like crazy. Imagine a world where you have like 2 Dawn active and you can attack with this guy and then protect him with blockers and various other forms of like counter power in your hand, and then just do it again on the next turn, the next turn, the next turn, the next turn, because essentially all he does is blank your Dawn phase every single turn. You can just draw a bunch of cards, and that's like not even accounting for any ramp that you might have in your purple deck. Really awesome. 2 copies of him. One of my favorite cards from this deck. Up next, we've got Gordon, a 1-drop 3,000 vanilla, super simple, 4 copies of him. Ooh, here we have another fun card, Shiki, a 6-cost 7,000 character with a really interesting, I don't want to say effect, but it's more like a condition, like a continuous lingering condition. If you have 8 or more Dawn cards on your field, doesn't matter where they are, this character cannot be KO'd in battle. And against decks like green, or even various like decks that have limited removal, like red, for example, can only remove 6,000 or less guys normally if they don't use anything like Otama, he's essentially unKOable. And so against green specifically, it could be a super cool tool just to annoy them and get constant magic numbers in against their leader, being that he's a 7,000 base. Up next, we have a basic trigger character in Scarlet, 2-drop 3,000 trigger, play this card. So if you check it in your life, you can reveal it and then put it into play. 4 copies of that. We have a 7-drop 8,000 Zephyr, or Z, I think he's known as well. When this character battles, strike attribute characters. So in case you didn't know, every single One Piece card has little symbols in the upper right-hand corner. They say like strike, wisdom, ranged, slash, etc. Those are the kinds of cards they're talking about. This character gains plus 3,000 power during that battle, so base 8 becomes 11 against strike-based characters. And then activate main, Dawn -1, this character gains plus 2,000 power during this turn. So essentially, you can make him a 13,000 power character against other strike characters, which I think is the most common attribute in the game so far. 2 copies of him. Up next, we have the 3-drop 5,000 vanilla in Baccarat, 4 copies of her. We have the 4-drop 6,000 vanilla in Bins, 4 copies of him. Here we have the 2K counter for the deck, Buena Festa, 1-drop 0 power. On play, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 film type card other than Buena Festa, and add it to your hand. They learned from their mistake with Bonnie. Letting your searchers add other searchers can be a little crazy sometimes, but we do get 4 copies of him. Always love getting 4 2K counters in a starter deck. Looking at you, Red, what were you doing? Next, we have the 2-drop vanilla in Dr. Indigo, 4 copies of him, and that does it for all of the characters in this starter deck. We got the basic things like vanillas, but we have some really cool, I want to say, control, aggro, and just overall advantage tools that you don't normally see in a quote-unquote starter deck. Let's go ahead and talk about the event cards. We've got several. The first one is Lion's Threat Imperial Earth Bind. Mouthful. It's a really hard to see photo, but it's like a lion that's like a ghost. I'm sure it represents something really cool. It's a 3-cost purple event, main Dawn -2, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a 5-cost or less, and then trigger effect when it's checked from the life. Add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So it's a free ramp when you get hit. Really cool card, actually. I mean, a 3-cost removal spell can be really strong. 2 copies of that. And then finally, we have the 2-cost event, Union Armata. It's a counter event. Up to one of your film type leader or character cards gain plus 4,000 power during this battle. If that card is a character, that character cannot be KO'd during this turn. Add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and send it as active is the trigger effect. Same exact trigger as Lion's Threat. 4 copies of this card. Had this card not had the film type leader or character restriction, I could see it being one of the craziest 4K event cards we have. But at the moment, I think it's a little bit lackluster compared to things like Thunder Bagua or even Blast Breath. But hey, you never know. They might come out with really broken film type leaders or characters, so keep an eye out for this. So now that we've gone ahead and looked at the entirety of the starter deck, all the basic stuff out of the way, let's talk about the most impactful cards from this deck. We've got the first one being Douglas Bullet. It's a really nice control piece that purple now has access to, as well as sort of combo purple decks. You know, think of your blue purples, think of your black purples in the near future. They're gonna love having access to a card like this that can rest your opponent's cards and deal big damage out of nowhere. It may not fit the quote-unquote aggro game plan that Shanks is trying to go for, but it definitely fits the control game plan that a lot of other purple decks love to do. Speaking of control decks, the next 2 cards kind of counter those in a sense, being Shiki and Guild Tessero. I already mentioned the basics about what makes these cards cool. Can't be killed, draws you cards, but when you're actually playing the game of One Piece, having a pretty much unkillable card against green makes it impossible for them to control your board and set you back. You will always have a 7k poke at their face at the very least, and that can create a sense of inevitability for victory. And against blue decks or various other advantage engine decks, having a strong card like Guild Tessero that you can reuse and abuse every single turn in long drawn out board states can just turn the tide in your favor. One Piece is a game where card advantage is king, and this card generates a ton of it. But none of these cards even hold a candle to the generic utility and power that is Uta. This card is the star of the film Red movie, and it's the star of this starter deck. It's good early game, late game, mid game. It's good against red, blue, green, purple, every color from the rainbow. It's just an amazing card. I think it's a guaranteed 3 to 4 of in any purple deck in the near future. And if you're not playing it, it's probably because you don't own any yet, so definitely go out and get your hands on some film starter decks and change that. Now, I know what you're thinking. Steven, you love the film edition starter and all the cards that come out in it. Great. But I'm a newer player. I don't even have an idea of what color deck I want to play. Why would I pick up this one when I have so many other options from booster sets to starter decks to choose from? Well, let me go ahead and answer that question, or at least make that question a bit simpler by talking about the differences between this starter deck and the other starter decks that already exist. So first things first, let's talk about what I think each starter deck is trying to accomplish. In my opinion, the first 4 starter decks, red, green, blue, and purple, are actual foundational starter decks. That is, if you get these and you get play sets of all the cards in them, you can build core strategies that work and can be upgraded on later with booster set cards that come out in the future. Whereas the film starter deck is a bit more self-contained. The cards kind of work with each other, or they're just super generic and they don't have enough oomph to win you a lot of games unless you just want to punch your opponent in the face a lot with Douglas Bullet. So while the cards in here are super awesome additions to the purple card pool, the actual archetype of the film starter deck is tough to upgrade and make sustainable in the current meta for One Piece. While I do recommend, if you're a fan of the purple color or you just want to have a really comprehensive card pool for One Piece, that you pick up the Film Edition starters, if you're a newer player and are looking to figure out what your first deck is going to be in One Piece, maybe look to the first 4 starters instead and then go from there. If you want my quick take on which of these is the best, I think the green and the purple one are the easiest to upgrade down the line. Like, getting 2 of each of these will definitely build you a super comprehensive deck that can automatically take down games and compete, but getting 2 of these as well as some like $4 or $5 SRs from the main booster set will be equally as impactful. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I love this deck. I love the cards inside, but out of the box, it just does not compare to the original first 4 starter decks at this time. And boom, there you guys go. That wraps up my unboxing and more or less review of the brand new Film Edition starter deck for the One Piece card game. Hopefully y'all enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.